I mean, seriously, what kind of madness possesses somebody to do something like this anyway? All right, gonna do a little bit of welding today. Not this kind of welding. We're gonna do some welding that doesn't require a helmet, any kind of eye protection. We're gonna weld with stuff like this. What I'm gonna work on today is making this side a little bit more like this side. I've already done this side, so I know what I'm doing, but, well, I say I know what I'm doing. I got it done. Anyway, I'm gonna weld an ear on the bottom of this with some plastic welding and put a little hole right there and a screw there to hold that in. It's all gonna work. I know it'll work. Worked on that side. If you look down inside of here, you can see the two bolts that are in the stock location that hold it on the top edge here. And if you look around the front edge, you can see one bolt in the stock location I welded a tab on that holds the front edge up. What I'm gonna do today is put this little piece on down here, so I've got a tab to hold the bottom, keep it from flapping around. I'm gonna start by cleaning this off with a little bit of acetone, get all the oily stuff off of it. We'll clean it with a wire wheel, should help it stick together a little bit better when I melt it together if it doesn't have a whole lot of paint and stuff like that mixed in. I've already cleaned this off, got all the paint off of it. And I'm also going to open a hole up in the middle of this, an oval hole. I'm going to use a step drill to do that. Just kind of a general guesstimation at where I want to put a hole at. And because it's plastic, I can get away with this because it's not going to catch and rip my fingers off. My thought on this is the oval hole will help with the bonding area. It'll give me a lot more surface area to glue it to. And this little tab will be plenty strong through this area to hold the forces that it's designed to hold. It's just got to keep it from flapping around when the wind blows across it. I'm going to slide a piece of wood underneath here, put a clamp around it. The piece of wood is just so that this metal piece doesn't sink into the plastic on the backside as it gets warmed up. And the approximate location of this thing is right about there. So rather than just go ahead and start melting on this, I'm just going to warm it up. It'll make it easier to melt if it's got some heat in the area around it, just like welding aluminum. Probably totally unnecessary, but you know. Oh, and I probably should have waited to heat that up until my soldering iron was actually hot, because it's just barely warm enough to melt that. So what I did for a welding tip is I just took a piece of copper wire, heavy gauge copper wire that's the right size to fit into the soldering iron, and then I just hammered it into shape, smoothed it out a little bit with a file, and that works like it was made to do it. All right, first thing, wherever you're going to start welding it at, press it together. And I also cut these little sticks out of a piece of old bumper, cleaned all the paint off of them, and now I have some filler rod when I need it. My thought process behind doing this is you got to get it melted in between it a little ways in, so you get some good penetration on your weld, and then you can push it down into it, and then you come back and fill it if it needs to be filled, which that one looks pretty good. It's amazing how easy this is to actually melt. This soldering iron is nothing special, just a cheap little soldering iron, and it does a fine job melting it. And while I have it clamped here, weld that together a little bit right there in a little spot. Exactly like welding. Spot weld it a little bit here and there, and then come back and finish weld it. Oh yeah, it'd help if I move out of the way of the light so the light would show what I'm actually doing. Gotta have a little light shining on what you're doing in order to be able to see it. Well, fired the camera operator. I need a reliable person to work for me, and reliable help is hard to find. Guy can't even push a button and listen for a beep. But I'm going to redo what I did on this little test piece here to kind of show you how I weld it together. Not that my technique is any good. I mean, I know it holds for a day. That's been on there 24 hours and the car hasn't moved and nothing's fell off, so I'll take that as a win. Anyway, my technique for doing this is just like normal welding. You're going to want to get good penetration. So I just drag it along the bottom, right in there, melt it down in real good, and then melt the upper surface down into it. Kind of push that into there. Get a spot weld here, and a spot weld over here. And then a spot weld on the other side. Wow, that thing was hot. I just touched it with my thumb. Little spot weld over here on the other side. That way I've got it held down. Now I can take the clamp off of it, get better access to it. And as I'm welding around it, if I need to push it together, I just hold it down with the tip of a screwdriver. Slide the tip underneath of it like that. Press it down, weld it in. And then as you're going along, warm everything back up over here. If you decide you need a little bit more, you just take your little stick that you cut off, melt that right in there like some nice little filler rod. I like to make sure that I get it good and warm all the way through, not move too fast. Something like that. Little beautification pass there. And I didn't go down any lower than that because I don't want to burn into it and narrow it up right here where it'll be weaker. I mean, it's going to be plenty strong. And I ended up with something that looks like that. That should hold. I still have to do this little gap up here and stuff like that. We'll finish that up in a minute here. So what I'm going to do first is clean the paint off of this side. First thing I'd like to say is you shouldn't confuse me with somebody who actually knows what they're doing, because I've never really welded a plastic bumper together before in my life, but this seems to be working. Trying to do this and stay out of the way of the camera also gets you at some weird angles, but I think it's going to work. And again, I've stuck my board to the backside, a little piece of wood there to the backside to kind of hold it straight like I want it as I push around on it. Well, it doesn't look half bad. It doesn't look all good either, but it doesn't look half bad. Let's check the penetration on the back side here. I didn't think you had it set hot enough. I think you were moving too fast. Your feed speeds were too low. Oh, wait a minute. Not that kind of welding. Definitely should have ordered some smaller filler rod. This low amperage welding with a large filler rod like this doesn't seem to be working too well. Still got a lot more work to do on this. I'm gonna have to add a piece to fill this little area in once it's on the car. But I'd say that's looking good for now. Oh, and I don't know if it's absolutely necessary, but I like to clean this thing off, not let it sit there with that plastic on it so it sits there and smokes and burns that plastic. Now I can reinstall this panel. My solution to stabilizing this at the top for now is just a small hole drilled right there and this little tiny screw. That's a Tempa Permarary solution. So on the other side, I've got a gap right at 2 inches right here, and it's just a little bit over 2 inches at the top. So what I'm going to try to do is hit this gap 2 inches right here at the bottom. Right there should be 2 inches. And that looks like 2 inches to me. I will clamp that, check it a few times. It just moved again. I will clamp that, check it a few times, and drill a hole in it once I'm satisfied with where it's at. Double check this side. And I was wrong. It's 1 7/8 inches. Still a little bit long. Yeah. Like a 1/16 of an inch or less long. I'll take that. All right, got a hole drilled in that. And this is a piece of the old bumper cut off for a little holding tab right there. And let me go get a push pin out of my box of assorted push pins. Ordered a whole bunch of these off eBay. Nice to have around. And we'll install it right there. Perfect. Snap that in place. Ooh. Should stay there. Well, there's really not much to do now except stick a tire on it. Oh man, it's getting heavier every time I do this. I was gonna say take it out and drive it around a little bit, but I'm kind of working on the shifter a little bit, so finish up working on the shifter and then I can take it out and drive it around a little bit. Anyway, that's how I did that. Thanks for watching. And you know the drill. Click, click, and click, click, and all that stuff. But make sure you share this video. A lot of people out there still don't know that this thing exists. Thank you very much. You might want to remember to put the taillights back in it before you test drive it, so you don't end up 3 miles from the house and say, hey, turn signals are acting kind of funny. I don't know why. I just feel like doing this. If you look down inside of here, you can see the two. That wasn't supposed to fall out of my pocket.